All right. A little bit nervous, but I just want to lift up the Lord and glorify God, and that's what I'm here for. I know that God's going to be with me, and I just want to lift His name up. I just want to thank Him for saving me, first of all.
Yeah.
And this morning I want to start by telling you, beginning about how I got saved and what the Lord did for me. I don't really like telling it that much, to be honest with you, because I turned my back on the Lord after I got saved, and you'll find that later during my story. But the Lord put on my heart this morning that I needed to tell that as well this morning, because we all need Jesus in our lives. So I'm just going to start by telling you a little bit about myself so you can understand where God brought me from. When I was younger, I didn't necessarily grow up in church. I knew about God somewhat, but I remember there being a bunch of problems in my home with my mother and my father, and I'm not going to go into detail about that. But I was growing up nowhere near the Lord. I didn't really know much about Jesus, and as I got a little bit older, my mother and my father, they began to get into church, and I noticed that things started to change in our lives. I noticed that there wasn't any more yelling and arguing. There wasn't. I didn't hear any problems going on, and I didn't even at that time realize that was God, because I was too young to understand. But I just felt like everything was perfect in my life, and during that time, and I remember that they started to get out a little bit, and shortly after that, they got a divorce, and it just broke my heart. I felt like everything was perfect in my life, and I didn't know what to do, and I was about 12 years old, going on 13 years old, so I'm searching for who I am at that time. I hit an age where I was asking questions about life, and I felt inside, through my whole teenage years, that there was something more to life than just us being here. I felt it inside. There was a purpose, but I didn't know what it was, and I was searching, trying to find who I was and who I wanted to be, and I had no idea, and I was searching in everything. And after this happened with my parents, I was distraught, and I started hanging out with the wrong crowd at school, started being around the wrong people, and engaging in things at a very young age, like drugs and alcohol. And it all. I just want to say this: alcohol and marijuana do lead to harder drugs.
That's right.
And there may be some people that do not venture into other drugs, but those drugs become control in their life. We can't control those things. The devil wants you to believe that you can control drugs and alcohol in your life, but they control you. That's just a lie from the devil. Right. So I started engaging in those things, and I believe some of it was part of me trying to numb the pain of me feeling like I had a perfect life that just got broken apart, and I'm searching to find my way. And then it just began to get worse. Like I said, alcohol and drugs, they lead to harder drugs. By the time I was 15 or 16 years old, I was doing things like, and I know that there's children in here, but I think this needs to be said from who I was, and to let you know how God changed me. But I was doing things like cocaine and ecstasy, just pain pills, different things. And I was trying to fill this space and this hole that I had in my heart, and I just couldn't fill it. And I'm still trying to search for answers to life. And somehow I managed to make it through school and graduate and get through all that. And then it really got really, really worse. during that time, I had been kicked out several times. You can imagine the problems that I had with my family, with my friends. I had been from house to house to house. My parents didn't want anything that had to do with me. And they kept taking me back, and I'd be back and forth. And I remember I got really bad on cocaine and really controlling my life. And I finally broke down, and I went to my mother's house, and I had to tell her that I was addicted to those things. And I was in denial. She knew that something was going on. Everybody in my life knew that something was going on, but I didn't think they were. I thought I was fooling everybody, and I wasn't. And so I go to work with her. I had to move in with her. I didn't have anywhere to stay. I had been living at a drug house at that time, and so I had nowhere to go. And she trusted me, or she didn't trust me so much that she wouldn't even let me stay at the house while she went to work, because she was afraid of what I may do or what I might take or anything like that. And so I went with her to work, where there was a man named Ray Marty, and he's passed away, but he worked there at her work. And bless his heart, and thank the Lord for him for being a vessel for God. Because that day I wasn't looking for God, but he was looking for me. And that day he led me to the Lord. And just like many people, I had so many questions. And if anybody here has any questions today about the Lord or God, there are trained people here, there are people here that can tell you about Jesus and tell you about the Bible and how it's the only way to live and the way to live. He led me to the Lord that day, and for the next year of my life, I was floating on a cloud. I was living for God. I found the purpose, the hole that is in your heart, the purpose that you're looking for is God. It's Jesus.
Amen.
He lived and died for us. None of us are good. Be me or it says that if we break one part of the law, that we broke it entirely. A person who lies or steals or just even just the thought of foolishness is a sin. If you can imagine how easy it is to sin and how big of sinners that we are, and just one sin breaks the law is what God says. It's not. None of us is any better than any. If we have any sin in our life, then we're not good enough. But Jesus makes us good enough through his blood. He lived and died for us and rose again, and he's alive and defeated hell. After I lived for God, this is the part I don't like to tell, but God wanted that for somebody. After I lived for him, I had some sin in my life. Just like I was a young man. I was probably about 20 years old, and I had some lustful things going on in my life. I kept engaging in these types of sin, and I felt like I couldn't pray to God anymore. I felt like he didn't want to hear from me. He didn't want to have anything to do with me. But that was just a lie from the devil.
Right.
Every time that you commit a sin, put it under the blood, right then and there, and you keep going for God. A just man falls 7 times but rise up again. And it's important that we do that. But I didn't do that. And after he changed me, he changed the way I walk, he changed the way I talk, he changed everything about me, and put joy in my heart, and I turned my back on him because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I couldn't do it. And I'm sorry. And then things that he had took away from my life, the drugs, the alcohol, the mannerisms, the way that I was, my behavior, it all started coming back, because once I stopped praying, I stopped going to church, and I stopped reading my Bible. And if you quit any one of those three things, then the other two are going to go. You quit praying, church and reading is going to go. You quit reading, church and praying is going to go. You have to have those three things in your life. Amen. If you're living for Jesus. And in the Bible it says, I need to say this also. A lot of preachers say, I hear them say that, people that backslide on the Lord and get into those types of sins again, they like to say that, that I don't have what they have and all those things. And I don't believe that, and I'm standing here proof of that. Because why would it tell us in the Bible that the latter end is worse than the beginning, and it was better for us to not know than known and go back into it? And I'm telling you right now, the latter end is worse than the beginning. As I went on that path, the amount of pain and hurt from having known the joy of God was entirely worse than the life I was living before I got saved. And I just kept trying to feel that and numb that with as many drugs as I possibly could. And after, like I said, drugs progressed, and now I had went from drinking and smoking and doing cocaine to now I was using a lot of opiates. I had taken some pain pills before, but this was something different. During this time, I was having fornication out of wedlock. I had 2 children during that time that are both suffering from this. I was a horrible father. I was a horrible son. I was a horrible friend to anybody that knew me. And it took me down a really hard path. It ended up bringing me to where me and my daughter's mother were staying in a motel because we had lost every place that we had ever tried to live, because we had all of our money went to our habit. When you're addicted to something like that and it's physically dependent, it is so hard to get away from it. And I know there's a lot of people in here that have family members, or maybe yourself have experienced something like that. And it is their choice to get into it. Believe me, once you're in it, it is so hard to get out. And you need to pray for them and have mercy on them. And I know it's their choice. I know it. I understand that. And I'm telling you, they are hurting. Even though they might lash out at you or be mad at you, they are hurting inside. And they need you. I'm not saying enable them and give them money to do things. I'm saying just pray for them and let them know that you still love them, because they need that. So during that time, right before we went into the motel, I was getting evicted out of another place that we were at. It was a trailer. And for the first time, God had been talking to me a little bit through one of my friends, but I was so far from God. I'm telling you, when sin gets in your life, it blinds you. Whether you're saved or not saved, it blinds you to the truth, and you can't see. I didn't even think God was answering anymore. I couldn't even remember. I remembered the time in my life where things were good, but I didn't give it to God. I didn't give the glory to God anymore, and I didn't even see. I mean, this is 7 years after I had been saved. I mean, sin had come in my life so much that I couldn't even see the way anymore. And so I'm in this trailer, and I'm about to get evicted, and I'm crying. It's me and my daughter and my wife. We have nowhere else to go. We have no more outlets. Our family won't even, our family, when we walk in the door, is putting their purses up. They're putting their anything that's valuable away, because they're so afraid that we're going to take these things, because they knew about our addiction and our habits. It was just so horrible, and I regret those things. I don't feel guilty about them, because God forgave me for them. I don't feel ashamed about them because I had to forgive myself because I'm no better than God, and God forgave me. So I'm in this trailer, and I got down on my knees for the first time in 7 years. It just struck my heart. I said, God, I need you. I messed everything up. Everything is so messed up, and it's all my fault. And I didn't think anything at the time. I'm just bawling my eyes out to the Lord. I prayed, and so I go on about my business. We're living in this hotel. It's so bad that all of our business goes to our drugs. We're stealing anything that we need: food, diapers, whatever we needed. We had to take it because we had to support our habit, because we could not function without it. We could not move without it. At this time, we had moved from pain pills into doing heroin, and I feel bad saying that, but what God did is even better. And so I prayed to Him, and we're living in this motel. I've lost my job, every job that I've tried to have, and so we're panhandling for money. I was right up there at Thomasville Walmart, asking people for money. I was at Mighty Dollar, right over there, asking for money. So I'm at Mighty Dollar one day, and we were deceiving people. We weren't just asking for money for gas. We'd tell them it was for gas or for a place to stay, but we were trying to support our habit too at the same time. So we were lying to people and deceiving them. You see a lot of people like that now. Heroin and the opioid is an epidemic right now. It is taking over and killing so many people, and we need to pray for that in all communities. And so I'm at Mighty Dollar. I have this milk jug, and I'm telling people I need gas. I'm going to put it in this milk jug. And this lady comes up to me, or I'm trying to talk to this lady, and she's like, I don't want to have anything. No, I already know what you're about. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything for you. And I said, okay. Well, I go to talk to another gentleman. This lady comes back, and she says, I have to help you right now. I really do. And I said, all right. I need gas. And she's like, well, I'm going to take you to Walmart and get you a gas can. I'll fill it up with gas. And then if you need some money for food, I'll give you some money for food. I had already had some money at this time. I really didn't need those things, but I told her I did. And so she took me. I got this gas can and filled it up with gas, and we went about our business. We had another place to stay that night because she had given us that money. We had spent money on other things, but then time goes on, and all the hurt and pain, I just finally couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I've got to go to detox. I have to go right now. I'd never been, it was a very scary thing for me. I'd never been physically addicted to anything. I'd been physically addicted for about 2 years at that time. And I went to High Point Behavioral Health to detox there. And after I went there, I was like, man, I need some real help. The people are talking to me there. They're telling me, you've been on drugs since you were really young. You're going to need, at least a place for a couple years or a few years. You think how much time you were on drugs, and you're going to need some serious help. And I agreed with him. I said, yeah, I am going to need some serious help. But this time I'm still not thinking that God's the answer at all. And so I started looking through these pages of things. I got out of detox. I stayed with my uncle and my aunt. My mom, bless her heart, she didn't want to enable me anymore, and I don't blame her for that at all. I had completely ruined her trust. And so I'm staying with my aunt and my uncle, and they're trying to help me find a place. Well, I'm trying to find a place, and I found a couple places that were 2 years, 1 year, 1.5 years, and I kept getting roadblocks. I'm trying to go into these places, and I was was on probation at the time because there was a bunch of legal trouble, which comes with drugs and getting in trouble. And I had child support issues from my children, and so I had to get my child support frozen. I had to get my probation taken care of, and I couldn't get in these places. I just keep running into roadblocks. Well, there's a place called Community Hope Mission for Men. It's based out of Community Baptist Church off of 109. Some of you guys might know where that's at. And it was a 10-week program, and my uncle and my aunt are like, well, we don't trust you. You don't trust yourself to be out to wait on all this other things to come clean so you can go to these bigger places. So we'll just go here first as a stepping stone, and then we'll go to these other places. I said that is exactly why. I mean, I didn't trust myself. I just wanted out. I just wanted out. I was hurting. I just wanted out. So I go to this 10-week program. At first, I walk in the door, and I still don't think God has answered any of my problems. I still think I need the highest, the biggest psychologist from the greatest college that there ever was, and that's what I need. And I go in the door, and God begins to work on my heart that week, and I start remembering the joy that I had and the things that I had from God and how He changed my life. Well, that Sunday was the 5th Sunday. And a lot of churches on 5th Sunday, they don't have service on Sunday night. Well, that particular Sunday night, they decided that they were going to sing for Jesus all night. So we were there. If you're in that program, it's a wonderful program. They just teach about Jesus and pretty much disciple you in 10 weeks. And basically what they try to do is they do you like a sponge. They just soak you in Jesus. So when the world goes to squeezing on you, what comes out? Jesus. And so I'm there that 5th Sunday, and the third lady who got up and sang was the lady who gave me the gas can. Y'all can imagine where I was at. I'm bawling up at the altar, crying my eyes out because God opened my eyes right then. It's like He just took away all the sin that was blinding me right then. Right when I went to the altar and told Him I was sorry, He took it all away. He showed me times during that 7 years where He put people in my path to try to talk to me about Jesus, and I wasn't listening. He showed me the lady and her giving me the gas can. He showed me how to get a detox, I had to actually use that gas can to put gas in it to get there. And if it wouldn't have been for Him, and all He was waiting on, and I beg you, because all He was waiting on is for me to call on His name. All He wanted me to do was say, please help me. I messed everything up. And He did. He changed my life. He gave me another chance. The testimony I destroyed, He gave me an even bigger one. Josh says all the time that he outdoes himself. And he outdid himself. He gave me a testimony. I ruined it. And I'll have to give an answer for those things that I do in this body. And I hate that, but He gave me an even better one. And I glorify God and thank Him for the things that He's done in my life. And if it wasn't for that prayer that I prayed, prayer works. Prayer works. We need it every day. We have to pray about everything. I had just enough money in my pocket to give that lady that she had gave me. Just enough in my pocket to give her back. When I graduated that home, when I graduated there at that 10 weeks, they asked me to stay for a year and help out and be a leader there and help other men. And God had changed my life, and all I wanted to do was help others and know that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life all the time. During that time, I found out that the places I was going to go to, the girl that I was with, we had my daughter with, she had went to one and left. The other place that I knew for sure that I was going to, because she was going to the other one, I couldn't go there because she was there, and they won't allow that. And in the other one that last year was called Prodigal, they shut down while I was there for a year. they shut down during that year. Also, another thing that God showed me is if I wouldn't have, if He wouldn't have saved me right when He did, there were 88 overdoses in the same area that I was in, being from the same dealers, from the same people, and there was 33 of them that died. If I would not, I had a settlement check coming from an accident 2 weeks after I went in there. If I would have got that check, I would not be standing here in front of you right now. God does not only save me, didn't just save me the first time when I was 20 years old, He saves me every day of my life. And I just want to thank Him and glorify Him. And just to show you guys, I just want to tell you, I didn't know if I should bring this morning. I couldn't find it at the house. I didn't know if God wanted me to tell you about that first part of my life, because what I did to destroy my first testimony. But God, I couldn't find this last night. I was like, God, I guess you don't want me to tell me. And it was stuck to my Bible because a little piece of gum. And I found it this morning. He said, God, He said, Lindsay, I want you to tell me. This right here is a letter to my mom and my father before I was born, or maybe when I was born. I'm not sure the exact time, but it's talking about me as a child before I'm born. And she was making much of Jesus. All she was doing was talking about, please put Jesus the center of your lives, and please live for Jesus, that He was the only way. And she just expressed just her need for God. And that letter told me, God showed me, that my grandmother was praying for me before I was even born. So that person that you're praying for, they need your prayers. The one who's not saved, the one who's lost, that's how we get in, is somebody praying for us. So you don't stop praying. It took me 27 years to get it right, and 7 of the years that I was saved, I really messed up. But God gets the glory for every good thing in my life, and I would not be standing here in front of you if it was not for Him. And I appreciate you guys letting me share that. Amen.